Hello and welcome to Class 10. Today we are going to be covering the Olympics and the sports that are within the Olympics.
So the first sport we're going to be covering is volleyball. So the way that you qualify to compete in the Olympics is actually quite difficult, which is not that surprising, but they basically take the best world ranked teams as of January 1st. And there's a more complicated process to this, but basically I'm just speaking when you get to the Olympics, what happens from there. Technically, you have to go through like a bunch of international competitions, but we're not going to be talking about those. So once you're at the Olympics, we have two different, I guess, categories. You have men's volleyball and you have women's volleyball. But each gender will have 12 teams, and these teams will be split into two pools of 6 teams. And you can see I put two pictures here. The top one is for women's, and the second one is for men's. And you can see they have two rows. The first row has Japan, I can't see that clearly, but I can see Japan and Brazil. They're in a pool together, and then the other pool has China and US. And in each of the pools, they'll play every single team in that pool. And the reason they actually split it up is because volleyball is a really, really like tiring sport. If you're going to play 11 teams, that's a lot of energy that's being wasted. So instead, they have 6 people, or they have 6 teams per pool, and each pool will play every player in their pool. And from there, the top two from each pool, which means 4 teams in total, will move on to play each other in the quarterfinals. And then, of course, after the quarterfinals, after those 4 teams play each other and they have 2 rounds, the 2 winners from those 2 rounds will play each other for gold and silver, and the 2 losers will play each other for bronze or third place. And Russia currently holds the record for the most gold medals, which is 7. And just like they also hold the most number of medals for Olympic volleyball, which is pretty impressive number of 12. And Brazil actually holds the record for beach volleyball, which is 11 medals, and US holds the record for the number of gold medals, which is 6. And if you don't know anybody, you should at least know Karj Kiraly, who was the first to win 3 gold medals in volleyball and also the first to win gold in beach volleyball, which means like the moment the sport was introduced in the Olympics, they won it. So next slide. Speaking about tennis, tennis has individual rankings. So unlike volleyball, where you can have like a huge team, like a national team, or a team that represents a country, for tennis, you're talking about individual players. So that means you also have individual rankings, which means that the top 56 players in the world rankings on June 6, 2016, so this is for like the Summer Olympics, of the the Women's Tennis Association and the ATP rankings are qualified, and you have a 4-player per country cap. This means that like they're making sure that no country is overrepresented. For example, Japan actually, putting aside Naomi Osaka, they're actually not very high in the rankings. So you're gonna have like 10 people from the US and then like 1 person from Japan. So this way they only have 4 players per country, and that means, although it's kind of unfair, it's better representation of each nation. And they play 6 rounds single elimination. This means that the second you lose, you're out of the game. And they go from 64 rounds to 64 people to 32 people to 16 people to 8 to 4 to 2. And of course, the 2 people play each other for gold and silver. And for women, they have they have 5 different categories. They have women's singles, women's doubles, and mixed doubles. So if you aren't familiar with tennis language, this just means that women's singles is 1v1, both of them are women. Men's singles is 1v1, both of them are men. Same for women's doubles, but they're 2 women, and men's doubles are 2 men. Mixed doubles, you have a man and a woman. And for this one, the picture on the right, you can see Serena Williams and Venus Williams. And they're 2 really famous women tennis players who actually have won a lot of records. And you can see them at the bottom here. So in 2016 Summer Olympics, 2016 Summer Olympics, the US won 3 medals, gold, silver, and bronze. The UK, Puerto Rico, and Russia and Spain, they all tied for second, which means that they all won 1 medal in gold. And all time, like I said before, Venus Williams, she's the older sister and she won 4 gold, 1 silver, and Serena Williams is the younger sister and she's won 4 gold. Okay, that's it.
Go. Golf. It is usually two formats, stroke play and match play. Stroke play consists of counting the total number of shots that the player has taken to reach the end of the course. The current major tournaments take place over 4 days, and the players must therefore play the same course of 18 holes 4 times, i.e., 72 holes. The player who has the fewest number of strokes at the end of the 4 rounds wins the event. Match play is a competition format in the form of a duel. Golfers compete hole by hole, and the golfer who wins the most holes wins the match. Match play matches do not have to go the full 18 holes. They often do, but just as frequently, one player will achieve an insurmountable lead, and the match will end early. For example, if a player is 6 ahead with 5 holes to play, the other player could not possibly win, so the match ends. Golf at the Olympics. Golf has been on the Olympic program twice, in 1900 and 1904. At the 1900s Games in Paris, 2 events were staged, one for men and one for women. Americans Margaret Ives Abbott and Charles Edward Sands were the first Olympic champion in the 2 events. In the 1904 in St. Louis, the women's event was replaced by a team event. At the 121st IOC session held in October 2009 in Copenhagen, the IOC members voted in favor of reintroducing golf to the Olympic program. It will therefore be in Rio in 2016, and that the titles of the Olympic golf champions will be awarded for the first time in over 100 years. The proposed Olympic tournament is a stroke play format for both the men and women. The best players in the world will therefore compete over 72 holes to find out who will be crowned Olympic champions. In competition, surfing. In competition, each surfer has unconditional right of way for their chosen direction, left or right, based on their priority and dictated by the priority and interference rules. If a surfer without priority interferes with a surfer with priority, then a penalty may occur on interfering surfer. Surfers perform maneuvers on a given wave, the totality of which is scored by a panel of 5 judges based on the difficulty, variety, types of maneuvers. Troopers are also judged on their power, speed, and flow during and between the maneuvers. Duke surfing in the Olympics. Duke Kahanamoku, a 3-time Olympic freestyle swim champion, first advocated that surfing will be included in the Olympic Games in 1920. The one was known as father of modern surfing, is credited with popularizing surfing around the world. Kelly Slater of the United States was crowned professional world champion on 11 occasions, while Australian woman Lane Beachley was the first surfer, male or female, to claim 6 consecutive global professional titles between 1998 and 2003 before she won her 7th in 2006. She was also ISA master.
So the next sport is soccer. So the competition format for this one is a round robin type of play, where every team plays against every other team. So every team has the chance to play like um, the one they want, I guess. So the general point system is that a win equals 3 points, a draw or a tie equals 1 point, and a loss is 0 points. They don't get any points. So there are there's 2 stages in once you reach the Olympics. There's the group stage and then there's the knockout stage. So during the group stage, there's groups of 4. There's groups of 4, 4 groups of 4, so 16 teams in total. The top 2 teams in each group are able to advance to the knockout stage, which is single elimination. So during the knockout stage, there's going to be 8 teams in total competing against each other, and the last 2 teams will compete for first and second place. So in Rio 2016, during the group stage, there's 4 groups. And so in Group A, which is the top left group, Brazil and Denmark both were top two teams to be placed in Group A. Group B, which is the lower left, Nigeria and Colombia placed in top two, and South Korea and Germany also placed in top two for Group Group C, sorry. And then in Group D, Portugal and Honduras also scored in top two. So all those countries all went to knockout stage, which is single elimination. So in the knockout stage, they started the quarterfinals with 8 teams competing against each other. So they played all these games in the span about 1 week, ending with Brazil winning the whole soccer Olympics against Germany 5-4 in the final match. So next up is track. The track and field section, I guess, took place on the last 10 days of Olympics, from August 12th to August 21st of 2016. So for this section of track, there was a total of 47 different events, all on the category of sprints, like 4x1, 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters. Long distance, which is marathons, 1 mile, 2 mile, all the long distance runnings. Jumps, which is like high jumps, triple jumps, and throws, where it's like discus and shot put, where you have to throw an object however far you can throw it. So for track, for the first 3 days, some notable people to remember is Almaz Ayana from Ethiopia. She set the world record for the 10,000 meter women's by about 15 seconds, which is pretty impressive since the 10,000 meter event is not easy. Wade Van Niekerk from South Africa, he set the world record for the 400 meter men's, which is another sprint section, with a world record of 43.03 seconds. Now this world record was about 0.15 seconds faster than the previous world record, which is just as impressive as the 10,000 meter women's world record. So some other notable people are Thiago Braz de Silva from Brazil. He set the Olympics record for the men's pole vault with a 6.03 meters height. This record was also his own personal record, so that's also something to note down. The second person to note was Anita Wolodarczyk from Poland. She set the world record for the women's hammer throw, which is on the throws area for track and field, with 82.29 meters as the world record.
Qualification. The age limit for Olympic boxing are a minimum of 19, raised from 17 in 2013, and a maximum age of 34. Unlike most sports, slots are limited for Olympic boxing, and just because you're qualified nationally does not mean you are going to the games. Professionals qualify due to ranking and an international Olympic qualifying tournament. Amateur boxers qualify for the Olympics through performances at regional tournaments in Europe, Asia, the Americas, Africa, and Oceania, or a world qualifying tournament. Rules. Boxers are required to shake hands before the first round and after the results have been declared. The age limit for Olympic boxing are minimum age of 19 and raised from 17 to maximum age of 34. Boxers must have clean shaven or facial hair restricted to a small mustache no longer than the length of the upper lip. Beards are banned. Before every bout, a medical examiner must declare the boxers fit. Boxers must weigh in every day. Boxers must wear boxing gloves conform to the AIBA standards.
Gloves weighs 10 ounces and features a white strip to mark the main hitting areas. Competitors wear either white or red or blue. Headgear was eliminated for men in 2013 as studies found the risk of concussion was higher for those who wore headgear. The traditional 10 go. Scoring is done with the traditional 10-point must system. Rather than a total points, each round is scored by 5 judges, and a computer randomly selects 3 of their scores to count. Each judge must award 10 points to a boxer they have won the round within 15 seconds at the end of the round. The judging criteria are the number of target area blows landed, domination of the bout, technique and tactical superiority, competitive and infringement of the rules. The winner of the round gets 10 points, while the loser gets a lower number from 6 to 9 points. 9 points will denote a close round, 8 points to clear winner, 7 points total dominance, 6 points overmatched. After the final round, each judge adds their score to determine a winner. In a unanimous decision, all the judges gave the same boxer 2 or more rounds. If there's a disagreement among the judges, it is a split decision. Participants can only use a recurve bow. For men, the recurve bow has a draw weight of, on average, 48.5 pounds. Women's bows draw an average of 33 pounds. The bows are typically 70-inch takedown recurves. The target is a 5-color target that is 122 centimeters in diameter. There are 10 scoring rings, which are exactly 12.2 centimeters in width. Each color consists of 2 rings. The inner color gold scores 10 or 9 points. Red rings are worth 8 or 7 points. Next, the blue rings score 6 or 5 points, and black scores 4 or 3 points. Finally, white scores 2 or 1 point. Athletes shoot 72 arrows in ends of 6, and the total scores rank the archers from 1 to 64. This provides the seeding for elimination brackets. In the next phase, elimination rounds are comprised of sets of 3 arrows each. 2 athletes shoot against one another, and the loser leads the competition while the winner advances to the next round. Archers win 2 points if they have the highest score in the set, and each athlete is awarded 1 point if it says a draw. The first athlete to 6 points wins the match. During the gold medal final, 2 athletes remain. They shoot a match, and the winner is awarded the gold medal, while the loser will receive a silver medal. The 2 semifinal losers compete for the bronze. Archers must be at least 16 years old to complete the Olympic Games. Rather than qualification slots being given to individual athletes, they are allocated to national Olympic committees or NOCs. NOCs earn qualification spots in 2 ways: by team or by individual. For each gender, an NOC can send 3 archers to compete with a team qualification spot. Each of those archers will also compete in the individual event. NOCs earning individual qualification spots are limited to a single archer in that event.
So the next topic of which we are going to be covering is going to be swimming. In swimming, there are 4 main strokes of which comprise the main events. Of those strokes, there is butterfly, breaststroke, backstroke, and freestyle. And with these strokes, there are different categories of which both men and women are put into, and these strokes are also combined into relays and all that sort of stuff. And basically, these strokes are combined so that they create a multi-sectional relay for all swimmers of that relay to compete in. Sometimes there are relays of which comprise only 1 stroke, while there are relays which comprise all 4 of the strokes. Next slide. So this is a comprehensive chart of all the strokes of which you can swim, and especially in the Olympics. In the Olympics, I'm not going to name all of these strokes. However, I'm going to name the general categories of the strokes. As you can see, if you just start out at the top, you can see 100 backstroke, 100 breaststroke, 100 butterfly, 100 freestyle. Of every single one of those, you can always see that there is 100 at the beginning. That's because the 100 is a certain category of which it is in. Normally with pools, especially with Olympic pools, sometimes Olympic pools span almost 50 meters in length, meaning that to swim from one side to the other side, that is 50 meters. So if you are swimming 100 butterfly, 100 freestyle, that usually means that you are usually swimming from one side to the other and right back. Well, as you can see, there are some others, such as the 1,500 freestyle. There are certain sections of which are different from others. However, I'm just going to be categorizing these strokes. So first we have the 100-meter category. That basically means that every single stroke has the 100-meter attached to it, and you have to do all the strokes within that certain amount of distance as fast as you can. There is also the 200-meter for all the strokes, which is very much the same as the 100-meter. It's only that it is double the distance. I also had mentioned how there is the 1,500-meter freestyle. The 1,500-meter freestyle is an extremely long freestyle category, and usually this takes much longer than some of the other categories of which I have already mentioned. Now we're going to move on to the medleys and some of the relays. There is, of course, the 200 individual medley. This usually is comprised of what a lot of people call short-term it as IM with an I.M for individual medley. What IM is comprised of is a butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle in that order. And with the IM, how people swim it is, especially in the 200-meter, that means you do 150 of butterfly. Then right after that, no breaks, you immediately kick off of the wall and start you start a 50 of backstroke. Then yet again, you start a 50 of breaststroke, and then you start a 50 of freestyle, adding all the meters up to be 200. And of course, there's 400 freestyle, same thing as the other freestyles, just a lot more. And now I'm going to move on to the relays. The relays are different in that there are 4 people involved with the relays, and for each member of the team, there are specific roles within the team, or at least within the relay team, of which are covered. Some of the specific roles that are usually well known are usually the starter and the anchor. The starter and the anchor, especially on relay teams, are extremely important in that usually the starter and the anchor are probably some of the fastest people within the team. Usually the anchor is actually one of the fastest. And as you can see, it says 4 times 100 meter or 4 times 200 meter. Usually that signifies what kind of stroke they're doing. And if you see in the middle between the 4 times 100 freestyle and the 4 times 200 freestyle, you see a 4 times 100 medley race. That one is the same as the IM of which I mentioned earlier. Just instead of one person doing all 4 of the strokes, it's 4 people, each one of them having a specialization within one of the strokes. So for example, your freestyle swimmer might not exactly be the fastest at butterfly. However, that's taken care of because your butterfly swimmer is taking care of butterfly. You have a backstroke swimmer taking care of backstroke, a breaststroke swimmer, and a freestyle swimmer as well. And after this, of course, there is the classic 50-meter freestyle, one of probably the fastest categories of which you can ever go into. And there is the marathon 10 kilometers. That one is an extremely long and lengthy freestyle process. Usually it takes a very long time to complete. And so it's probably one of usually shelved for the longer time periods. Next slide. Now, this is just going to cover some of the stuff of which I have already covered. So especially if you were in some of the strokes of which I mentioned. So for example, for 50 freestyle, 100-meter freestyle, all those sort of strokes, usually there are more people of which apply to those strokes than just 8 people. Because in the pool, there's usually only 8 lanes of which are given to the race, meaning that there's only 8 swimmers going at a time. So how it is dealt with is that those 8 swimmers, each swimmer is assigned a heat. Heats are basically different sections of which swimmers go into. So for example, heat 1 is usually some of the fastest swimmers, and going down from there, you then go down the heats to heat 2, heat 3, heat 4, as long as how many people are swimming. And with every single heat, there's usually 8 swimmers, sometimes on the final heat. So for example, let's say there's only like 21 players in the swimming competition, or at least in that section. You would divide 21 by 8, and of course, you would have a remainder of about 5 people, right? And so then these 5 people are put into the final heat, which in this case would be heat 3. And with heat 3, they would then be taken and they would be put onto the swimming blocks. But as you can see, there's 3 people missing. Those slots are not filled. Those slots are just left empty as the race continues for heat 3. And of course, on relays, there are usually only 4 swimmers a team, as I have already mentioned. Alrighty, next slide. So the next topic of which we are going to be covering is diving. Diving sections are, let me just explain what diving is generally, or at least competitive diving within the Olympics. How competitive diving usually works in the Olympics is you are jumping from a height, usually predetermined, and from that height, you drop to the water. However, as you are dropping to the water, you are performing various turns, stunts, flips, and different acrobatic stunts within the air as you fall towards this pool. And once you reach the pool, your goal from there is to usually try to make as little of a splash as possible when you hit it. So let's cover what's in the slides. As I have already mentioned, diving is a competitive sport, and the sport is divided into genders, so male and female, and you are often split up into age groups. From those age groups, you also have different categories. You have categories of which have different heights within the different heights of which you jump off of. So for example, there are dives that take place from the 5, from the 7, and from the half. Usually just about the 7. And the 9 or 10-meter towers. All of those towers are at different heights, of course, and when you jump off of them, it usually gives you different points and you have to do different stunts, so and so on. But usually with Olympic Games in this case, usually they only perform dives at the 10-meter height, which is actually quite tall. Divers usually have to dive multiple times, doing a set amount of dives so that they can the established qualifications and requirements which are set by the rules, including sometimes usually if you're within the Olympics especially, you can't just do a normal, like, you jump off, you do nothing, and you just drop into the water. Normally you have to do spins, you have to do turns, and that is what makes diving complicated in that fact. So, how do judges judge diving? Well, with how judges judge diving is that they judge mainly 3 aspects of the dive. They usually judge, 1, the point of takeoff. So when I say the point of takeoff, I mean usually there is like an expected sort of range of which you can really jump off of the diving board, and sometimes divers don't take that range, which lowers their points significantly. There are also points given to the actual dive. So as I've already said, the somersaults, the turns, the flips of which you do midair. That is what 3 points are allotted to in this section. 3 points are also allotted for the entry, basically how you hit the water. So for example, if I were to dive off of the 10-meter board, I'd do all the just somersaults, flips, and what I need to do to score the 3 points is that I need to hit the water, but I need to hit the water so that I don't make a big splash, because that's what the judges are mainly looking for. The splash of which you make, the bigger the splash, the worse you are doing the dive. So that means the smaller the splash, usually for some reason that means that you have more control of the dive, more control of your fall, which usually gives you more points. And of course, there's always just that 1 extra point of which the judges get to basically give at their own discretion. And of course, this score is then multiplied by the difficulty factor, usually by the amount of different flips or the amount of moves of which you did. So like double somersaults or like tri-turns, that sort of thing. And finally, at the end, the diver with the biggest score usually is declared the winner of the diving contest. All right, so thank you for coming to our class 10 slides. I thank you and goodbye.